Today I will show you the best setup for rotational aim assist. Aside from that, I will also explain to you what rotational aim assist is and how to get it running. In addition to that, today's setup will of course work for both controller and mouse users. There is only one setup difference between the two, and I will of course cover it in great detail. By the way, this is the fourth part of my aim assist series, in which I display some of the best aim assist boosters that Matrix has to offer. If you haven't watched the other videos yet, then you can find a link to them in the video description. All of these work incredibly well on top of each other. But let's start with what rotational aim assist is. The aim assist of a game can usually be triggered in two different ways. The first one is by moving the right stick, and the second one is by moving the left stick. The orbital aim assist is triggered by moving the right stick. As soon as this is the case, your crosshair will follow the enemies. In my last tutorial, I have shown you the best orbital setup. Today we will look at the second way to activate the aim assist, which is done by using the left stick. This is the so-called rotational aim assist. Here you can see an example. When I move my character to the left and right, my crosshair automatically follows the enemy. In some games, the rotational aim assist is actually much stronger than the orbital one. As you can see, my crosshair almost completely follows the enemy. With an orbital, this would not be the case in this game. Now it is important to know that neither orbital nor rotational will boost the aim assist. Those two will simply activate the aim assist. But if you use them as shown in my video, then you can ensure that you will have aim assist throughout the entire game. So you must not manually trigger the aim assist anymore, as it will be active all the time. To boost the aim assist, you would need to use the tricks shown in the other videos from this series. That way you can not only increase the uptime, but also the amount of aim assist that you get. Now let's get started. The rotational aim assist is not as easy to trigger as the orbital one. Let me show you this stick overlay. The blue dot is the position where my analog stick is currently located. When I peg it to the top left, you can see that the blue dot moves to the top left. To avoid this type of aim assist from being too powerful, games usually define areas on the stick in which the rotational aim assist cannot be triggered. For most games, this is the following red area. If your stick is located in this area, then the rotational aim assist will not be activated. This is because in most games, the forward or backwards movement is the most common movement direction, and game developers do not want you to benefit from aim assist by simply moving forward in a game. Instead, you should only get rotational aim assist when in combat, and that usually means your stick is somewhere in the left or right area. But that is not everything. Some games even block the rotational aim assist for strafe movements, so the forbidden area will look like this. The reasoning behind this is because strafing is usually too common in those games, or that the game wants to punish keyboard players. Strafe movements on a keyboard will always be in this area, whereas controller players can slightly peg the stick up or down to avoid this. This is why this area is usually thinner than the first one. So, what is the best rotational shape then? The best shape is the one which spends as little time in this red area as possible, and at the same time, it should have as little influence on your general movement as possible. There are lots of shapes which solve this problem, and here is my favorite one. As you can see, it barely stays in the red area. Let me show you how this looks like in Gamepad Tester. When I activate this setup, you can see how it moves my stick in the shape that I have just shown you. Similar to before, the dot is indicating where the stick is currently located. Since that is a bit too fast, let me show you a slower version. Now, it is much easier to see what is happening. So in short, my setup will add some stick noise that ensures you will always be in the relevant areas to have rotational aim assist. Now let me show you how to set this up. I will open my manager. In the video description, you can find a link to the copy and paste code. Copy the full code and go into your button bindings. At the bottom, press the plus button to create a new binding. By the way, the steps are the same for mouse and controller users. Next, you must click on the paste option at the very bottom. This will insert the binding into your manager. In the next screen, you must choose to what button you want to bind it to. Press and hold the button icon at the top for that. You can then choose what button you want to bind it to. You can, for example, select a controller button like the D-pad or the trigger. That way, the rotational could be active whenever you aim down the sights, or you bind it to your shooting button. Mouse users could, for example, select the left mouse button. This is the only setup difference for mouse and controller users, so pick a button that suits you. I will use the Z key on my keyboard. Next, you must choose how it should be activated. I want it to be toggled, so I must change the activation in the following way. This allows me to simply press the Z key and the rotational will permanently be active, and when I press the key another time, it will be deactivated. This is the most popular way to use rotational aim assist. Next, we can choose if there should be a condition for it, such as that the rotational only works from the hip or in the aim down sights mode. This is up to you. I want it to be active in both modes, so I won't change it. You can also bind it to a group if you want to. Once that is done, it is time to dial in the setup. This is extremely easy and only takes a minute. Find an area in your game where enemies are moving around. Do not touch your keyboard, mouse or sticks and just stand still. Let the enemies move through your crosshair. While the enemies do that, change the first value in the top left corner of your setup. This defines the intensity of the setup. It is currently set to 0. Click on the plus button below the timeline to raise it by 1 value. Or move the slider at the bottom. Since changing this value will turn off this rotational binding, you must press the assigned activation button from the top again. For me, that means I must press the Z key on my keyboard. At 10% there is no auto aim yet, but as soon as I set it to 11%, it will start to work. As you can see, the crosshair follows the enemies. In other games, you may require a higher or lower value than in this example, so change the percentage as often as needed until your crosshair starts to follow the enemies. Just make sure to always press your activation button right after changing the value to reactivate your setup. Since it usually takes less than a minute to find this value, you can even do that during a multiplayer match. Just make sure to stand still and do not touch your sticks or mouse. If you want to use the setup for hip and aim down sights, then ideally pick a magnitude that works for both. Once that is done, you can save your changes. In games that allow you to change the dead zone of the left stick, it may make sense to lower it. That way, the rotational setup can work with a lower percentage and will have less influence on your movement. But rotational aim assist also has disadvantages. If you play one of the free games that currently scan for mouse adapters, then you should maybe not use this setup. The reason is because the pattern this setup performs with the stick is in theory quite detectable. So far, no game seems to scan for this, but that may change in the future. Another disadvantage is that in some games the magnitude has to be so high that your character will permanently make an annoying movement. In such games, it makes more sense to use movement SAB instead. If you use a value of 20 or 30, then you will have rotational aim assist whenever you are moving.
So guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button or maybe even subscribe to this channel to not miss out on any of the upcoming videos. Also, contrary to popular belief, this channel is not an official XIM channel. I run this channel in my free time to bring you guys the latest XIM news and tricks. So if you want to support what I do, then maybe consider to join the YouTube channel membership. Channel members usually get around 1 to 4 weeks of early access to all new videos. Plus, we also have a nice little Discord to discuss XIM settings and other stuff. But that's about it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching and I will maybe see you in the next one.